Good morning, everybody. I am incredibly nervous, so please do accept my apologies if I rush or get stuck. A good friend of mine once told me, when you do these things, start with some audience participation. So that's what we're going to kick off with. Nothing major, just ask you a couple of questions. How many of you work on multilingual projects in Plunet on a regular basis? A few. Over 10 languages. Okay. Over 20? Okay. A couple of people. What's the most you've ever worked on in a project? Someone who had the hand raised at the end there. Okay, we've got 56 there. Anyone above 56? 107. Okay, wow. That is quite impressive. At Conversis, we're a life science translation company. One of the biggest challenges we have doing clinical studies that are global is that we deal with a lot of language. Our best that I have on record is 85 language/locales, which of course brings its own unique set of challenges. I am going to look at my notes a lot because I'm very nervous. It's all written down here. I cannot know how someone stood over here and gave a speech for 20 minutes without referencing notes. It was amazing. I've already had one. I need another. What I do need is I need a volunteer. I'm going to pick John, who I know. Okay, stay there. If I start going too fast, which is the habit I have, you have to wave at me. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to talk through Plunet on steroids, as it is on the screen. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about is focused on large multilingual projects, but it's not exclusive. The stuff I am going to talk about can probably be applied in other situations, but this is just where, for Conversis, this is where it's made sense to us. Okay? Wrong button. That works. So this is Plunet, as you will recognize it. We've been using Plunet since about 2014, and over the last 6 years, we've been working on adjusting our Plunet instance to what we affectionately refer to as Plunet on steroids. Much of what Conversis has done to make this change has been done using functionality that Plunet has natively. Okay? The team worked with them over the last few years, had lots of discussions about how we do things, and this is all Plunet existing functionality. Okay? So, to make Plunet on steroids, you need three things. You need a Plunet SOAP API. I'll talk a lot about this as we go through the conversation. You need the JavaScript, jQuery injection, which Sufyan mentioned. And I've gone off script, I know I would. And a little secret ingredient, which I will tell you at the end. That way, it's a surprise. Okay? So first I'm going to talk about is the Plunet API, and especially the documentation. It is available off the help desk. There is a link here at the bottom of the page. I don't know if my slides are going to be available at the end, but they are, so all these links should be available. This is one from version 9. You can download a zip file. The good thing about it is it's very, very clear and precise. You have lots of web services, what calls they can do. There's great descriptions about what those calls actually do, what you need to add into them, what you get out of them. So I think I've read many API documentations over the last year, especially with some other development I've been doing, and this is one of the clearer and better ones, in my opinion. Okay? And the good news is you can work through it, click on links, and it will take you through. There are 4 web services that we use a lot. Plunet API is the one you have to use at the beginning and the end. It gives you the unique identifier you can then use for everything else. And then quite well, then reasonably named data order 30, orders, items, jobs. So it's a very well-structured, very clear, easy to follow document. I'll leave it there. Okay. Now, I use an application called SoapUI for manipulating and experimenting with all the API calls. It's a nice little app that you can use, and in every Plunet call and documentation, it has this WSDL information. So this is what you need to put into SoapUI. SoapUI looks something like this. It's very simple to create the call. Just click on Soap, make a new one, and stick in your Plunet URL with the information from documentation just above it. So, straightforward. I'm going to read back here. And the thing I love about SoapUI is it immediately then populates every single call available from that web service in a list, as well as giving you the structure you need. So very simple there, very easy. You can quite quickly see what is going to be used and what you can do with it. And then by populating it, you simply press the play button, and hey presto, you get the output on the right-hand side. So you are working with SoapUI, you want to experiment with it, you want to try out a few calls, you want to work slowly through a process, see if you can do what you want through the API. SoapUI is great, and you can simply copy what comes on the right-hand side into the next call on the left-hand side and progress through and figure out what you want to do. Okay. I'm sure you all realize this is a great way to experiment and it's going to help you understand what can be done, but obviously what you want to do is put that into some sort of package, some sort of solution that will be able to be used repeatedly and effectively across the next, I don't know, lifetime of your Plunet existence. And for this, my tool of choice is a tool called AutoHotKey. By no means do you have to use AutoHotKey. There are thousands of tools out there. There's thousands of programming languages out there, but AutoHotKey is one that, for me, is incredibly simple to use. I picked it up from nothing. I'm not technically, historically, a coder, but I did manage to teach myself this and a few other things along the way. I am probably underselling my talents, but yeah. Checking my notes again. Let's flick through. One of the things I love about it is it's very easy to build executables. Also, this is the call from SoapUI, and this is it in the code in AutoHotKey. Practically identical. So if you want to, you can literally just copy and paste the calls from your SoapUI and get them into a hotkey to then just run and process them. And for those that are interested in using SoapUI, there are a couple of scripts which I have shared on the community at the bottom. It's also a very simple tool to create user interfaces. This is a UI for my dialog over here. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. This is my sort of set item due dates button, which is one of my examples I've released at the bottom. So for me, I think it's very simple to use, it's very easy to understand, and it has an amazing tutorial if you want to get started from nothing. So if you ever want to look into options, for those that aren't programmers by now, this is a way to get started. Now, this is great, having a lot of executables running around that you can use, but what you really want to do with them is you want to get them into your Plunet environment. Yes, and getting that will be your biggest game changer. Where have I gone? Oh, yeah, that's the last thing. This is why I like to use AutoHotKey, and again, I'm nervous. I've gone off script. I'm getting worried. I'm going to breathe for a second. Thank you. I mean, last year I had the pleasure of talking with Sufyan to talk about code injection. We talked, I think, last October. And Sufyan created a wonderful article, which again is referenced on the screen here, about how you can actually set up the JS injection. And I've stolen this slide directly from Sufyan, so thank you, Sufyan. That code I showed on the previous screen brings up these 4 buttons we have on the top right-hand corner. By all means, do read through his document. It's under the articles in there, I think, at the how-tos. Very good. Back to my notes again. Okay. What I'd also like to do very briefly, though, is talk about how we use a JS injection at Conversis. We use a JS injection and add something what we call a protocol into our JS injection script. This is what you would need to add to the registry, and at the bottom is what you'd need to add on the JS injection page. What this allows you to do, and I'll actually write this out more detailed in the automation center when I get back from here, is from the page, if it's on a local computer, you can fire off an executable. So if you build a small exe on a hotkey, you have this registry protocol added to your registry. You can then fire off the button. You can launch the executable. You can pass information such as the order number. And then you can start working specifically on the order or the job or the item that you're currently looking at. So for us, this is a great way of just building a small executable to do a problem and then have the JS injection fire it off. The good news about this as well is all the code that we've got is on an executable on our network. So even if the JS injection is global, no one can link to our executables to do the functionality. So it's kind of a security measure at some point. One thing I would note is that when you're working with the API, if you're trying to work on an item or a job or an order and someone has that currently active, it will block you from doing stuff. There is a super user you can get installed, but don't do that. If someone is in an order, they're probably there for a reason. So it'll ask you. So one thing you are doing if you're going to code is you want to check. If the item is locked, stop, come back. And I have a little message which I say, there is someone in the project or there's someone in the job, please kick them out. And I would recommend that for everyone. Okay. So what do you do with it? I ask myself this question, and my project manager team this question every day or every week, and they hate it. But it's where does it hurt? This is what you've got to figure out. Where does it hurt? Where does it hurt your team? What is the biggest headache that you have to go through? And hopefully, the API can help you solve it. Okay? I'm going to go through a list of some specific samples that we use, but by all means, it's not exclusive. There are some others. But if you don't know the question, the answer to this question, please ask your project management team. Please ask your vendor management team, what is the pain point? Plunet has some great built-in functionality, so if they don't tell you, you don't know, and it exists already in the UI. But if it's not there, then yes, the API can usually solve a lot of those challenges that exist. Some examples. There you go. We have lots of clients who like to send us logs. They work in SmartLing. We don't have a native connector to SmartLing, but if you get 15 languages in SmartLing and you want to import 15 languages of logs into an order, the API can do it. Update your price quantities, the API can do it. We're going to remove some price units. Quite often we'll do analysis, import the translation logs, and then they go, but we missed a file. Okay, you may not want to move out all the data, but you can use the API to go through and remove the price list related to translation. Hey presto, you can reset your items to import new logs, which you can then also do, again, via the API. On if item due dates, you saw that. That was my little example. That's probably the first thing we ever wrote. If you've got 80 languages, you're usually delivering batches. You probably don't want to update them one by one. You can grab a bunch, due dates. Same thing for us. Again, 85 languages. They don't all have the same workflow because some are going to be localization, some are going to be English conversions, some are going to be something else. So you can use it to automatically select workflows. Renaming items, setting job due dates. I mean, the list goes on. I won't read through them all, but this is just a subset of what we do. I've kept the secret ones to ourselves. Okay, let me go back that one and hold that. So on my very first slide, if you spotted, there was a little color-coded rainbow date time. That's our DTP team. That's sort of how busy they are. Green, yellow, and red. It's almost always red. But again, so Sufyan showed that yesterday. He pulled in some external customer data from, I think it was a CMS. So again, this is great. You can use the JS injection to grab that information from anywhere and potentially present it on screen. Okay. Now, our little secret ingredient. Please don't tell anyone I told you this. Is a live replicated copy of the database. For those of you that have an on-premise instance of Plunet, it is possible to set up a replication of the database. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe the Plunet team can support you in getting this done. You need a second server somewhere and space to store the database copy. What we do at Conversis, that is a live replication. That means it's constantly doing whatever happens to your main database happens to your replication. And this is good because that means you can then start reading this database and pulling out information with potentially larger select calls from SQL, and they will not impact your live instance. You do not want to be reading from your live instance because if you put a 30, 40-second call into your live instance of Plunet, it's probably going to break it. Okay. Now the reason we do this, it gives us access to a little bit more information. Plunet is a wonderful system. It's a really cool tool. We love it, but sometimes we just want to get more data out of Plunet. So we use the database read to just help us gather that, such as just getting all the price lists out of all your resources, BI reports, or even completely customizing in quote creation. Okay. And for those who are interested, there is an example of a MySQL query I wrote, I'm going to say last week, might have been the week before, I can't remember, for somebody on the community center, which basically lists all price units for a resource, that every resource in your system, active price lists. Okay. I've probably gone a bit too fast. I would say this, the automation corner of the Plunet community is a little corner I live in a lot, and we're quite happy, I think, as a group to talk and make suggestions and answer questions and help people who want to start their journey into adding some steroids into your own Plunet instance. Thank you.